October 24th Board of Education meeting is called to order. Thank you all for being here. We're so happy to have you. Public audience. All right, moving on to board and administration announcements.
Hello. I have a lot of exciting things to share with you tonight. First off, many of the elementary schools are focusing on teaching students about growth mindset traits. And in this program, they'll choose one or two characteristics that they focus in on each week to help make them stronger learners and better students. Chewin Hill's own Take Action Club is running the We Scare Hunger food drive this week. And they're collecting non-perishables until Friday. And they'll give all the food to the food pantry on Halloween. As someone who went to Terrafil, I feel obligated to share that they have a pasta night on Thursday, October 26th. It's a great time, so book a reservation. Latimer Lane hosted their annual Connections Dinner, which had over 140 family members and Latimer Lane students come and enjoy dinner as a community. Central School had its is having its annual Kindergarten Harvest Dinner on Thursday to welcome all new kindergartners, and they're led by the first grade, which is pretty cool. At the middle school, the intramural programs are all in full swing now. I saw the golf group up at Simsbury Farms one day when I was working, and they had a great time. Last Wednesday, a huge event happened at the high school. We had a fantastic pep rally honoring the school's unified program, and ESPN members came out to help celebrate with us, including SportsCenter's very own Kevin Agundi. And this past weekend, the high school also hosted the one-act plays, which were directed by the senior theater students, and there were over 13 plays, with which led to a great day of performances.
Thank you so much. Tom.
I will only follow up on the One Act Festival on Saturday. It was unbelievable. It's like we were watching professionals work. I managed to see someone. We had one of our ABC boys was in it. My heartiest congratulations to everybody that had anything to do with that program.
Excellent.
Nothing today.
I'm all set, thanks.
Just that I got to attend that pep rally, which was fabulous. The kids, my hat's off to all of them. That was a lot of kids in one place for a very long time, and the high school did us proud. So it was
Wonderful.
It was a great event.
Excellent. Ms. Lemke.
And I think just to add to that, it's a wonderful national honor bestowed to the high school. But I also think it's an honor that should be shared district-wide, because that just doesn't happen overnight. The recognition of inclusive practices have been happening since some of these little kids have been in preschool. And so I think it's a recognition as a district we should all share and be proud of.
Thank you so much. Neil.
Got our board committee work for the year started yesterday with a meeting of the Communications Committee. So I want to thank Ms. Willerup and Mr. Frank and Mr. Doan, who were in attendance at our Communications Committee meeting where we reviewed the results of our panorama survey on school climate. We did a deep dive into all of the district data and was able to show the committee members the kind of reporting mechanisms that the principals are able to see when they get the data back. What I've included for you in your folders is a different kind of summary that is in PowerPoint format, and this gives you highlights for each of the schools. So each of the 7 schools, you'll see highlights about what parents, students, and teachers had to contribute in terms of areas of strength and areas for growth. And this really, in response to one of Mr. Frank's questions about, how does this become actionable? It's really at the school level that I think this data becomes actionable. Principals dig into this data, and they also share it with a required body at each school called the School Climate Committee, and then they make plans throughout the year. So for those committee members for those board members who are not part of that committee, would certainly urge you to take a look at this document over the course of the next few days. If you have any questions whatsoever, please give me a call. We are not planning to do a full board presentation about the panorama surveys because the principals are doing those reports when we're having the high school report. You'll hear the middle school report tonight, and then the elementary in a couple of weeks. So thank you to our board members who helped with the analysis. It was a good meeting.
I think the only thing I would add on that, thank you, Neil, for all of your work on this and all of your culmination of the data and synthesizing it. It's really important to let the public know that we appreciate everything. And these, when we ask you to do a survey, getting the information, getting the teachers to respond to the survey, getting the students to respond to the survey, and getting the parents to respond to the survey is critical for this to make any difference. And we're spending a lot of time on it, and our principals each spend time on it, and you spend time on it, and the board spends time on it. And we take it very seriously. So any time that this is opened up to the public, we really appreciate all of their input, and everybody participating. It
Right.
makes it a very valid document.
And I will remind everybody, we do it every 2 years, so it's every other year that we do that complete survey.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, as you know, we have a district leadership team that's studying school start times. And just to give you an idea of where we are right now, we are creating surveys for parents, for teachers, and for students, and those will be coming out within the next month. So we will, I know Mr. Curtis will look to put something in a correspondence that he puts out to the parents, and as well as our building principals will do. So we're looking for response from our parents, from our teachers, and our students regarding their impression of what that might look like as we consider possible change in school start times.
All
So
that
will be
information
coming.
is really, we look at it all, so don't think it's busy work.
That's right.
It's not, it's very
That's right.
important. Thank you.
We also have November 7th is a full PD day. On that day, there's going to be a combination of building-based work, choice workshops, working with Neil and the PDEC committee, which is a group of teachers and administrators that come together to really talk about professional development and growth over the course of the year. And it was a desire of many, many people to offer choice workshops. So we'll have probably over 100 teachers giving choice workshops, so we'll see how that all works out. But at the elementary, the middle, and the high school. So building-based, choice workshops, and math and focus PD for our K-8 teachers as well. And then I did engage our Board of Ed Curriculum Committee last Friday morning. We met at the STEM Lab at Simsbury High School. You're going to hear more about that tonight. But we did have the opportunity to take a look at what's happening at the STEM Lab at Simsbury High School, and I think it was exciting to have some of you there.
I was
to see it.
remiss in not mentioning it. It was a great meeting. Lydia, Jeff, and I were there. The STEM Lab is coming together. Thanks so much to Ensign Bickford for all you've done to support it. And it's fabulous, and I'm excited to see what's going to come out of that space.
Right, and on November 7th, one of the opportunities that will happen at the high school is that the science department teachers will be meeting with Joncia and in the STEM lab for an hour to look at it, to see what some of the options are where they can bring classes to the STEM lab as well. So we're really trying this year to get as many departments engaged and have opportunities to really experience the STEM lab. So thank you.
Wonderful.
Just one topic tonight. In your board folders, have a copy of the energy efficiency, just a high-level answer to the question from your last meeting, where we discussed, new energy efficiency projects at Central and Latimer Lane. And so there's two items that I have here. First, the quick summary on that, and then the second page is our quarterly utility usage in both dollars as well as the units of measure. So typically we try to share that with you during the quarterly report. So basically what I was looking at the highest level, I was looking at multiple years of total kilowatt hour usage for electricity, and we've saved more than, we've decreased usage of electricity by more than 1 million kilowatt hours over the last several years, saved approximately $235,000 on the cost of the delivery portion. And really the largest portion of that was the first project we did at Simsbury High School that was ready to go for the 15-16 school year. So over the last two school years, we decreased about 636,000 kilowatt hours of usage at the high school, or about 125,000 worth of savings. And then at Henry James, Tooten, Latimer, and Terriffill, we also had smaller projects that make up the balance of that savings. So in terms of the heating side of things, I've put a footnote here that, you know, we've really made recent conversions.
Very
So
energy
it's got a
efficient. We didn't need that.
Efficiency, very important.
There we go.
We can meet in the dark, we can.
And we made
That was timely.
conversions from oil to natural gas heating at Squadron and Tooten. So we don't have a full season of data year over year to try to compare there, but we will update you on that at future meetings. So if anybody has further questions and wants to talk to me, I can give you more of the backup, but this is just a higher level answer.
Comment.
Mhm.
This is really impressive, and it's a result of a lot of planning, a lot of work on the part of our district people. It's almost $250,000. I don't know what our policy is about publicizing things like this, but this is the kind of information I believe the public needs to see. And so I would just ask that the district give some consideration to the possibility of finding a way to put this kind of information in front of the public, so they know what this district is doing to create efficiencies in a very important way at this stage in our history. So, just a comment.
Thank you very much. Good piece of document for us to have. Moving on. Oh, Matt.
It's all right. Just a reminder, we are scheduled to have our tri-board meeting. It will be on the 21st of November, 5:45. It will be at the public library in the large reading area room. And that will be our kind of initial kickoff to budget discussions with the various boards. So that certainly is an important meeting. I'm going to send that date out for those that can be there. I think it'll be important. There is information coming out now that it looks like there is a budget that is going to be voted on potentially tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see. I am an optimist, but I think we need to wait and see the actions that come out of it. But some of the numbers that we've had access to that have come out early indicate that for the current year, which we had significant concerns about, we would be well within the contingency plan and the budgeted numbers. That's encouraging because it would allow us to kind of frame and look at that budget planning moving forward into next year in a somewhat more flexible way rather than in a significant deficit. So again, we need to see what those numbers look like. That will certainly be part of the conversation on the 21st. I did have an opportunity to meet this morning, Burke and I, with Rob Pomeroy, and just talk a little bit about format, some long-range planning conversation, but it was a productive conversation. I know we have a lot of work ahead with the multiple boards, but I think that we can collaborate and really move forward in a productive way.
Just a quick question on that. In the event, and that's really good news, at least on a preliminary basis, in the event that it turns out that our budget more than covers what we need to cover as a result of what comes out of the legislature, will there be lapsing accounts that we can use to help us deal with the following year or not?
Yeah, I think that will have to be part of the planning conversation, because in that contingency plan with the Board of Finance was a use of $1.5 million in reserves. Would that first element go back to reload that to the level? I mean, there's multiple pieces to that equation. The way I would look at it is it would definitely allow us, I think to your point, look at that initial number of fixed costs potentially a little different than we would if we were in a deficit situation. So it's certainly a positive.
Thank you.
Too early to tell, Tom, about the actual number.
Sure.
Yes, too early to tell. I think everything's been covered. Excellent job. Nice, a lot of good information coming out. We're very busy. It seems we're all very busy. Moving on to recommended actions. The approval of the minutes of October 10th.
So moved.
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion? All right, moving on. We have a personnel issue.
Yep, and it's unfortunately a resignation, and this one hurts. This is a person that we met just over a year ago in an interview process for department supervisor at Simsbury High School. So Nilda Irizarry, 5 minutes into her first interview, you knew you had a special future leader in the room. And we brought her in as our English department supervisor. She had been a teacher down in Fairfield, and we were prescient about her being a leader because she's been hired as an assistant principal in Farmington just a year later. So that's a pretty quick elevation from teacher to a department supervisor for a little over a year to an assistant principal's role. The English department has loved every moment of Nilda. They're mourning a little bit. We do have a transition plan in place in which a teacher currently in our English Resource Center is going to pick up the teaching element of this, and 2 veteran members of the department, John Madonna and Linda Myron, are going to take on the leadership just for the remainder of this year as kind of a transition plan, and we'll do a full search for this in the spring. So congratulations to Nilda. We are going to remember that we gave her her first leadership opportunity formally, and hope that this is not the last time we see her, but I do want to congratulate her. And you can see we need the motion that's on your document there.
I reluctantly accept that, having served on the committee this year.
Thank you very much. Any discussion?
As a parent of a student in her class, I am beyond sad that she is leaving because she made a 17-year-old boy like AP English. So just saying, that she's a special lady.
Very talented, but we do wish her well. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Moving on to a gift from Ensign Bickford Aerospace and Defense Company.
Okay, I'm just going to kick it off, this first of 3 gifts this evening, and we're very pleased to have another exciting year 2 renewable gift from Ensign Bickford Aerospace and Defense Company. I'm going to ask Jancia Litwinick to do a little bit of the background and introduce our guest this evening.
So I will start with saying that this is it's not our first collaboration with Ensign Bickford. We've been collaborating with them for a long time. I think it started with Project Lead the Way and helping us get that off the ground. And then also that when we were looking at doing FIRST Robotics, they also helped us. We're now in our 8th year, so they've been supporting us.
Can you use the mic? I'm sorry. I just want the folks at
Oh,
home.
sorry.
to be-
Okay.
And Craig, you could come on up.
Yeah, we can come up here.
Thanks, Craig.
Sorry.
You have to start over.
Sorry, John.
Okay, so anyway, FIRST Robotics, and it's our 8th year now, and they've supported us all along with this, and they also started, I think it was 4 years ago, the co-op program. The co-op program that allows 2 juniors to come in and do like an internship for about 6 weeks, and they learn a lot in that time. And it really helps them decide what area of engineering they want to go into, and it's been fantastic. Besides engineering, they learn a lot of life skills that are important. They work with all different departments there. So that's been wonderful. And so last year, they decided they wanted to help us in a bigger way. And so it came up with, well, what can we do? And there's been a big push for STEM with industry because we need more engineers, more technical people in that area. And so we decided upon the STEM lab. And so we had a $10,000 donation last year. And I'm happy to say that it was about the same time last year that we received this donation. And we're back again. And Craig's here again to give us another donation.
Yes.
Craig?
Yes. Thank you. The only thing I would say is that the Ensign Bickford Foundation is kind of doing the easy part. Johnsy is doing the hard part. All her folks, with your support, are really the ones making this happen. So without further ado.
And I think what I would like to say too, Craig, before we do any presentation, is that having the opportunity on Friday morning to have been in the STEM lab and to see the progression that has occurred just since last year to that space where we have a design location, we have a fabrication location, and a presentation. And, you know, it just becomes more exciting when you get to see what the potential is and when kids will have more of an opportunity to really engage in areas that they just wouldn't have that opportunity to do. So I think on just the conversations that Jeff and Lydia and Susan and I had with Johnsy on Friday morning were exceptional and couldn't be more excited about these opportunities, so thank you.
Yeah, it is a truly impressive space. I mean, we've come far away from, you know, when I was younger and having an erector set. That was about the STEM lab right at home. So thank you very much, both of you, for what you're doing, because it is an impressive space.
And I do have to say, this isn't me.
Yeah, well.
So I want to give the credit to
Right.
our whole department that works so hard. And I will like to point out Kurt Dugan, who's really been working alongside us with this, Wendy Koo, Dan Warner, Andy Mikulski, and Dave Salonia.
Great.
Okay?
And I think we should probably make the motion that we accept the check.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That we accept the check.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Fabulous. Picture?
Oh, there's the check.
All the pictures.
Love it. I love the big checks.
I'm going to get the big check. Wow.
Big check.
Love that.
You want to go over there and you gotta stand in front of us? Or you want us all to come around?
You're welcome.
You want all of us?
Members?
Come on. It's all of us. It's all of us, quick. You too. Yeah, you're
That's why I wore a tie. It was Come on, me, put the tie up here.
Yes, right here.
And officially, on behalf of the Ensign Bickford Foundation, Tom Perlitz, the President and CEO of Ensign Bickford Industries, and Brendan Walsh, who's the President and CEO of Ensign Bickford Aerospace and Defense, I'd like to present this check for the Simsbury High School STEM Lab.
Thank you. We're taking.
Wait a minute.
Oh, she wants on the digital media. Is everybody in? Todd, are you in? We're kind of so proud. Thank you so much.
Now it's okay that it turned the lights out.
It's really crazy.
Get those big checks at golf.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, wait. Saw the number.
Yeah, whatever. We'll take whatever we can get.
$2 I'd accept.
Wonderful. What a gift. How exciting. How exciting. Moving on,
So our next gift
we have another treat.
is going to be benefit Henry James, and I'll let Brian add some comments, but this is the first of what I think we hope is going to be several replacement water fountains. This is a donation of $3,000 from the parent-teacher organization, and at this school, it's a little bit more involved to you can't really just retrofit the fountains. We really have to replace what's there. There's some plumbing and electrical work involved. So these state-of-the-art water fountains will be a nice add. And I don't know, Brian, if you have any other comments.
No, just to thank our PTC for their support and generosity. This was a nice improvement as part of the renovations we'll talk a little bit about later this evening. We had one of these installed, and with so many students having water bottles every day, it's a wellness and health issue, it's a convenience issue, so we're very pleased to have it.
It's an infrastructure improvement as well. Those are good things. I mean, you gotta change the plumbing every once in a while. That's a good gift as well.
So we'd ask the board's approval of the gift of $3,000.
Second? Second?
Sure, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's awesome.
Thank you to
Thank
the
you,
PTC.
PTC.
Yeah.
They rock.
That Henry James PTC has always done a great job.
Very, very supportive.
Not that the rest of them don't.
No, we have great parents, for sure.
Right. So our last gift this evening that we're asking your acceptance is for the Cultural Enrichment Committee, and our 5 K6 PTOs have combined for the donation of $5,252 for this first segment of programming for the 17-18 lineup, including freestyle repertory, Shakespeareans, and Viva Brazil programming. And we would ask your consideration gift.
I didn't hear what that program is.
It's
Could you repeat that,
the
please?
culture enrichment program. The elementary schools they participate in the culture enrichment program. The schools get together. They have a committee that is related. Every school is participating in the one committee, and they bring cultural enrichment activities to the school to help support our climate and our curriculum.
Okay, thank you.
So typically, this is the first of what would typically be 3 of these donations over the course of the school year.
Thank you.
And the parents that run this part of the committee meet with the principals every spring. They're wonderful. They plan ahead. They go to various schools, see what's going on, and come back with just really high-quality opportunities for our kids.
It's
So
cool,
it
it's
really
one of the
is
only
nice.
committees that is all
All
schools.
collaborative,
so
all
yeah,
5
it's collaborative. It's
schools.
very
Right.
nice.
Just very impressive. Thank you.
I would move that we accept the gift.
I second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Thank you very much. And sad but true, the time has finally come to admit that Tom Doran has moved to Pittsburgh.
I just thought it was really busy.
We're trying. We held on, but no. So I am presenting to you guys the, Tom Doran has submitted his resignation to the Board of Education, and we as a board have to vote to accept it.
I would move that we accept Tom's resignation.
Jack.
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion?
Thanks to Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yes.
Tom,
Service.
for all of his service.
I would say I had a conversation with Tom last week. He's doing well. His transition has gone well. He's enjoying the new city, enjoying the new job, so we wish everybody well.
Wonderful.
Called him to
resign.
We wish him well as well. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Wonderful. Moving on now to Henry James Memorial School Academic Report.
All right, I'd like to invite Mr. White, principal, and Anjanette Belmonte, assistant principal of Henry James, to come forward. This is part 2. We had Andy O'Brien, principal of Simsbury High School, present his report. This is part 2, our middle school report, and at our next meeting, you'll hear the elementary report. And again, this is really as a continuous improvement cycle. It comes from our strategic plan. So you'll get an opportunity tonight to see a variety of different aspects of the work that's going on at Henry James School in regard to their mission, their vision, the kinds of things that are new. I think they're very excited to share those things with you. Academic successes, the HJ Way, budget preview, and areas of focus that are actually in progress at this point right now. So I'll pass it over to Brian and Anjanette.
Great, well, Erin, thank you so much, and it's nice to be here tonight to just share the accomplishments of Henry James from last year. And so we just really start with our mission statement. This is the 3rd year of this mission statement. We crafted this as a school over the course of the year, and it's really framed in the context of high school readiness. And so preparing all students for success at the high school level and beyond by inspiring lifelong learning and developing citizens of strong moral character. That's really at the heart of the work we do at the middle school every day, and it really does drive our efforts. And so lots of exciting things to share this year. As you know, we've been now for a few years going through different phases of building improvements and renovations at the middle school. This summer we had a very large project, the largest to date, that really saw improvements in the common spaces on our entire 2nd floor. New lockers, lights, ceilings, carpeting, paint. The place really looks fantastic. What we did is we had a project that completely changed the appearance of the 2nd floor to match the work we had done 2 summers ago on the 1st floor. We also saw a lot of other improvements like a new elevator, a new nurse's office suite. We had ADA compliance improvements. We added a fire suppression system to the 2nd floor and several other improvements, our stairwells and so forth. So very, very proud of the appearance of our building. It really looks great to get the new school year underway. Another significant change and improvement for us this year is the implementation of the new block schedule. Ms. Belmonte had an opportunity a few weeks ago in our October 1st report to share a little bit of the details of that change for us. But really the highlights is that it creates a schedule that really provides students with more of a bridge from the elementary level to the high school level. And so our new schedule really does give kids a more similar experience to what they would experience at the high school. It also provides longer instructional blocks, which allows for the types of instruction we'll be talking about throughout the program this evening.
So as we look at our indicators of success, we're always looking to provide you with information that are public markers. They're part of our strategic plan to give you a sense of student performance as we look at various aspects, such as the PSAT 8. It was for the last 3 years taken in 8th grade. Brian will talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. Our degrees of reading power, this is an assessment that's been taken by students for the last 20 to 25 years, and it gives us a sense of students' reading comprehension. The Connecticut Mastery Test in Science, Grade 8 Science. Brian will talk a little bit more about this, but we have seen the last iteration of that. That is now complete, but we will talk about that as well. And then the Smarter Balanced Assessment. We're in year 3, so we will be able to give you some information regarding the 3 years that assessment has been in place at Henry James.
Thank you. And so, as Erin mentioned, we actually have several measures that we look at to measure the success of our students. The PSAT 8-9 we actually discontinued this year, but we did administer this test last year. We administered this test for 3 consecutive years. Very proud of our student performance on the PSAT 8-9. This is an excellent predictor of not only high school readiness, but can also be a predictor of AP readiness at the high school level. What you have here is a comparison of our students at Henry James who take this as 8th graders in the fall, compared with state and national averages. If you look at that top row, the average score of a Henry James student on the PSAT 8-9, 904 compared with the state average of 776 and a national average of 814. And so handsomely outperforming students across Connecticut, but also national averages. Very proud of that point. Below that, you see a breakdown of ELA and math. I won't read each of those numbers, but again, you can see in those breakdowns, we perform very, very well in comparison with state and national averages. And so very pleased to share that data with this evening.
So our decision was to take the PSAT 8-9 and move it to 9th grade. We thought that having students in 9th grade taking it, they'll take the PSAT in 9th grade and 10th grade and 11th grade and have the opportunities to really connect with Khan Academy and other support systems that the College Board offers. You know, it was a hard decision, but it was a test that was taken in October of 8th grade, and we really felt we'll get better information about student progress by doing it in 9th grade. So that this year, our 8th graders last year and our 9th graders this year took it 2 years in a row. So we'll see some progress on their part as well.
Just a quick question on that. You mentioned we've done this for 3 years.
That's correct.
Could you give us any insight as to what the trend looks like over those 3 years, if you know?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And, you know, one of the things to be aware of when we first started to administer this test, it was actually known as the Ready Step. And so it was a slightly different College Board product. It gave us a lot of the same information in terms of being able to look at that trajectory from 8th grade to 9th grade and on to the upper grades in high school. The second year we administered was the first year of what College Board called the PSAT 8-9. And there were some changes to the test that was administered last year. And so it's a little bit of apples and oranges in that it wasn't the same exact test. But what we saw, generally speaking, and what was shared in previous years, is that our students did equally well on those tests in those years it was administered. One thing I will point out that Ms. Murray pointed out, it's interesting to note that our kids take this test in October. And so this is really something that's administered in the fall of their 8th grade year. This is not essentially an 8th grade test. In many ways, you could argue this is a test of their 7th grade experience. And so the fact that our kids are doing so well at that stage in their development is impressive.
You know, one other interesting thing just that jumped out at me, and I know it's not as widespread, and this is an 8th grade comparison. I wonder who the other 8th grade districts were, because it's very rare to see our state average below a national average on a test associated with the SAT. It's just, it's interesting. It's a different trend.
Right. So there are a lot of our larger urban cities that have utilized this. And when we looked at, we have the printout.
Yeah.
Right.
And is it always administered in October, or
Yes.
do they have the ability to do it later in the year?
You do. You actually, there are 2 times you could do it in October, or you could do it in the springtime. But that was just new this year, I believe, this past year, that it was available in the springtime. But we see it as a better tool to be used in the fall of 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade for some continuous comparison and opportunities for kids to really get in and look and see how they're doing and access some of the support systems that College Board has to offer.
And so this next slide just gives us an overview of how our students perform on the Degrees of Reading Power test. This is a test that, as you can see, is administered grades 3 through 8. And so this gives us the ability to really progress monitor cohorts of students as they move through the system. Our students perform very well on this. As you can see, 90% of our students at or above goal. The trend line around that average DRP score, again, in the direction that you want to see it in. This is a test that historically we've done very, very well on. We like this test because for all the changes in standardized testing over the past few years, it gives us a pretty consistent marker to look at that cohort growth over time.
So that was the current 8th grade students, these are the,
Correct, so that was the current 8th grade class, and so this slide shows the 7th grade.
I'm sorry, the current 9th grade class.
Oh.
That's who that was.
is-
Right,
yes,
right.
correct.
That
So-
was, yes, these are now the current 8th grade class.
Correct, so
It
last,
should be the 7th grade in this.
Correct.
correct. So again, what we see here is a very similar trend line in terms of performance, so 89% of our students at or above goal. Again, historically, a very strong marker for us. So that was. As Ms. Murray pointed out at the start of our presentation, we are moving away from the science CMT. This was really the last portion of the CMT that the states had in use. We've moved away from the other sections of the CMT, reading and writing, a few years ago. This is an area that we've done very well on and very consistently with over time. As you can see here, comparing 15, 16, and 17, very strong, consistent performance. We are moving away from this measure this year. We anticipate a pilot test from the state of Connecticut with a new test a year out. So this slide here just gives us some different comparative data looking at 2015, 16, and 17. This is for our grade 7 and 8 SBAC literacy. As we can see, grade 7 looking at 2014, 15, and 16, 70%, moving on to 76, and then 83%. We feel this is a good slide because we've done a lot of work at the middle level to really enhance our English instruction and curriculum. We feel the fact that we've had strong growth year after year, even though the different cohorts, is an indicator of success for the work we're doing in ELA. When we look at grade 8, the trend looks slightly different, 68, 81, 75. We do see some variance there, but we've also seen some success with a lot of the measures we've put into place in grade 8 ELA as well. So this slide is also a depiction of our ELA performance. This represents something called the vertical scale score. This is something that we're looking at carefully. The scale score refers to the score that students receive on the SBAC. This particular chart shows the disparity between what we would consider high-need students, or students who are in the categories of special education, free and reduced lunch, or English language learners, when compared with the rest of their peers. And so we see a difference in performance between that high needs group and the non-high needs group in grade 7 of 97 points. And so that's not a percentage, that's the difference in average points between students that are high needs versus non-high needs. That's how we characterize the achievement gap, and that's how we use that data point to look at how our students are performing. You see the same measure there for grade 8, again, same formula. We see a difference in points of 100 among our grade 8 students between high needs and non-high needs. And again, important data points for us as we look at the nature of the achievement gap. We'll talk shortly about some of the measures we have in place to address that area.
The end markers, the highest and the lowest are communities in our DIRG, districts in our DIRG. So we wanted to, rather than give a very large 19 districts, we wanted to show you the highest difference and the lowest difference and where the state and Simsbury falls. Thank you.
Just to comment on that, in the
Yep.
package that we received in preparation for the meeting, it's on page 15, it shows SBAC ELA grade 8, and there are two numbers. One for 2015-16 and the other for 2016-17. The 2015-16 number is 87.5. I don't know exactly what that means, but the 2016-17 is 81.6, which is not a huge decline, but it is a decline. And could you help us understand what those numbers actually represent?
Absolutely. So that's a year-to-year comparison. And so what you're looking at is two different cohorts of students. So you're not looking at the same performance of that group decline over time. What you're seeing is two different groups of students and how they performed as 8th graders. And so that top line in the packet, that's the grade 8 SBAC score. That percentage is the number of students at or above goal. And so in 2015-16, 87.5% of our students were at or above goal. In 2016-17, with a different cohort of 8th grade students, we saw 81.6% of those students at or above goal.
Okay.
And just to clarify, these are the tests that are given in May.
Correct.
That is correct.
So they've pretty much completed 8th grade at that point.
Essentially. This slide, similar format, demonstrates the math SBAC performance in grade 7 over the years 2014-15 through 2016-17. We see 60.6% of our students at or above goal in 2014. 58.2% of students in the 15-16 school year were at or above goal, and 65% of our students at or above goal in the 16-17 school year. Same format, grade 8, 63.2% in 14-15, 72.3% in 15-16, and 60% in 16-17. We have seen growth among those cohorts of students. Admittedly, math has been a weaker area for us compared to our ELA performance. We'll talk a little bit more shortly about our Math in Focus program, which is something we're working very hard to implement this year. We definitely saw a need, given our relative math performance, not only compared with our DERG comparison districts, but also based on our ELA performance and our performance in science. We know we have very strong students. This performance indicates that there were some areas of curricular concern and instructional concern. Our new math program is intended to really target those areas with some intensity. So we'll talk more about that shortly.
That same packet, in the same table, showing SBAC math grade 8, 79.7 in the 15-16 year, and 68.1 in the 16-17 year, which is getting to look like a fairly significant number in terms of decline in that metric. Could you comment on that?
I agree, and it is a significant number. It does speak to some disparities in cohort performance, but I would agree that it is an area of concern. The curriculum and instructional practices didn't change substantially between those 2 years, and so I would argue that the methods in the classroom, the nature of the curriculum, that was fairly constant despite the change in performance you see over those 2 years. I would point to that as another piece of evidence as to why we're moving towards the Math in Focus program.
So it's our hope that that Math in Focus program is going to drive that number right up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's our expectation. And to that point, I mean, it's as you know, it's a KA program. We're very excited to be implementing that. So far, that's gone very well at the middle school. We're still in the early stages, but it's a real shift in thinking around the approach to mathematics.
Sure.
And it's definitely our expectation that over time it's transferred.
Thank you.
So a very similar slide. This shows that vertical scale score comparison on SBAC in the area of math between our high needs and non-high needs groups in both grades 7 and 8. Again, you see that DERG range. If you look at the slide to the left, grade 7 math, 139 is on the high end of that DERG range, 89 points on the low end of the range. There we are, Henry James at 132, which is approaching the higher end of the DERG and above the state number of 118. When you look at grade 8 math, a much larger range there, 152 the DERG high compared with 79 the DERG low. The state average at 125 and we're at 116. And so again, a very important marker for us when we look at the achievement gap.
I also, I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but you send us these charts to look at. And I just wonder if there's a typographical error in here or if this is a real number, because when you look at the SBAC math grade 8 special ed number, there's a number in there that says 24.5 for the previous year and 9 for the next year. And that's a huge decline, if that number is correct.
That number is correct. That's accurate.
And what's going on with that, if we know? Yeah.
So something that we've implemented over the past few years is a co-teach model. And that model is really designed to benefit all students, but it has a special education teacher co-teaching in some of our leveled math classes alongside the content area teacher. We've seen good initial success with that model. We also see a need to support students in that particular grouping. So our looking at our special education population in math is also an area of concern. And so while we're looking at our math program in totality, we're also looking at subgroup performance, special education being one of those subgroups that we've really focused on. It's a little deceptive in that you're comparing cohorts, and so again, I would caution from jumping to the conclusion that that represents a decline over time. We're deeply concerned about that performance level.
Okay, well, just a related comment. My memory might be faulty here, but I think in some of our budget cutbacks, we cut back on some assistance that we provide to our high-need students. in terms of coaches, or did we cut back in that
No.
area
We
at
did
all?
not, Tom,
We
at
did
all.
not. We did not?
No.
Okay, not that, we didn't cut out any para educators.
We did not.
In that, okay, good, I'm misremembering that. Thank you very much, Brian.
So this next slide gives us another basis of comparison. We often look at how we're performing relative to other DIRGs in our district. This shows a 3-year look from 2015 to 2017. This shows us the combined literacy performance on the SBAC for both grades 7 and 8. You'll notice, starting with the left of the slide in 2015, Simsbury's ranking relative to other DIRG comparable communities. In that year, we were at 73.3%. Compared with Avon number 1 at 83.3. So again, a 10 percentage point spread there between where we were positioned relative to the top of the DIRG, but a very tight performance band there with the other towns. 2016 ELA, there you have us 5th overall in the DIRG at 78.5%. And in 2017, again, 5th in the DIRG. So we've been very pleased to see our relative ranking increase. Again, we think that's evidence of some of the measures we have in place to improve our ELA performance. The fact that we're seeing improvements in how we perform against other DIRG communities, I think is a very proud point for us.
So this is a combination of 7th and 8th grade ELA. You'll see another slide in a minute regarding the math. When we bring the elementary, you're going to see similar slides in regard to 3 through 6 performance, a comparison of how they do. So this is just another way to look at how we're performing when you combine both 7th and 8th grade together.
And so this next slide is one that's worth considering. Again, it shows a 3-year look at how we're faring relative to other DIRG communities. Again, 7 and 8 combined on math. In 2015, 61.8%. In 2016, we saw a relative decrease when compared with other DIRG communities, but we actually increased in performance to 65.2. And then finally in 2017, again, it looks like a drop in rankings there, 62.4, but that's actually higher than the 2015 scores. And so when you see a slide like this, and this kind of speaks to a lot of Mr. Frank's questions about math, it's very concerning to us. And really, we look at the instructional core, we look at our curriculum, we look at our instructional practices, and we look at the needs of the cohorts of students that we serve. This is another data point that I think is a good example of the types of things we were looking at in making decisions to change math programs. Clearly with the new math standards, these types of data points, we saw that there was a real need to change our approach to math. And we do believe that the new Math and Focus program will get us there.
Is that program, as a matter of fact, is that program, the Math and Focus program, or something similar to it, being adopted throughout our DIRG group or not?
There are some. Farmington adopted it about 5 years ago. And there are other districts. Glastonbury has had it in place as well. Other districts outside of our DIRG down in Fairfield County have also adopted.
It's not all over the DIRG, it's just a couple
No,
of
it's not.
schools. Okay. So,
Neither is what we have now,
yeah.
or had before.
Yes,
Right, right.
Okay.
There is a consortium of, that brings Math and Focus districts together that our coaches and Jacqueline Petrella do attend. So we're able to really talk to people about their experiences, learn what they're doing. We've partnered up very closely with Farmington because we've watched their progress over time, and they're close by, so we do have the opportunity to really talk, and they have been more than gracious to talk with us about their implementation process.
And so this slide just shows a lot of the various instructional supports that we have in place at Henry James. It's really how we support many of our students. We talked a little bit about the instructional core relative to how we make decisions about the types of programming, the types of curriculum, the types of instruction we pursue. We mentioned the importance of looking at cohort need among groups of students that we serve. These supports are really critical to the success of all students at Henry James. I'm very pleased with how much we've built over the past 5 years to improve our intervention model. So we've spoken a little bit about the Math and Focus program that we're actively implementing year one. We're pleased this year to have Title I monies. We've been able to deploy those funds to really target the areas that we know we need to actively improve in. To that end, we've been able to hire supplemental math supports. We actually have a math tutor in place that we were able to fund through that Title I grant, which is a great improvement to support both students and staff as we implement Math in Focus. That individual also works with individual students that require extra help and assistance in mathematics. I mentioned our academic intervention model. This is something, again, that we've really built over the past 5 years. We have tiered academic interventions in place, much like the elementary school. We have our academic support center, which is a tutoring center where students receive targeted skills instruction in ELA and mathematics. We also have in place what we call our student intervention team, which is a group of professionals that look very closely at students that are struggling and make recommendations about the types of interventions they would benefit from. We're now in our 3rd year of co-teaching. I referenced that in connection with the math work. We have co-teaching arrangements in both ELA and math classrooms. This has been a very positive benefit to our students as well as to our staff. We've had an ongoing partnership with Columbia University's Teachers College. This professional development is really geared towards our ELA teachers. We feel it's the right work. We've made a lot of significant improvements to our curriculum and our instruction, especially in grade 7 ELA over the past couple of years, but also including grade 8. That work continues. This year, our science vertical team is focusing on what we're calling the next generation science standards. We mentioned the discontinuation of the science CMT. As we anticipate the new science standards and a new state accountability measure, this vertical team work will be critical in preparing our teachers for that shift. The last 2 bullets are actually vertical efforts underway here in system. We have a collaborative math learning group which spans grades 6 through 8 and a 6 through 9 middle grade literacy and math study group. That's a collaboration between teachers of elementary, middle, and high school levels. The middle level is so essential to the K-12 experience in Simsbury, and we recognize the transition that occurs between 6 to 7 and then 8 to 9. And so this group of folks is really focusing on how we enhance our instruction in those areas so that transition from elementary to middle and middle to high school is effective.
I do want to let the board know, too, that with the science new standards, the NGSS, the state had applied for a waiver through ESSA, through the national, through the federal government. We were awarded that. We just found out on Thursday that the state was approved. What we thought we had were 2 more years before the high-stakes test. We thought it would come in the spring of 2020. Through the waiver, they have pushed it up. So we now are done with CMT. The field test will take place in the spring of 2018, and the high-stakes test will be in 2019. So this is causing us a little bit of anxiety because we thought we had a bit longer to prepare and get ready for it. So just so that you're aware of it, the approval just came through on Thursday, and I'm meeting with the science vertical team this Thursday to talk about our work and how we'll continue to address the area of science across the district.
So at the beginning of our board presentation this evening, Mr. Sullivan referenced the work of the Climate Subcommittee and the Panorama Survey. We administered a survey to our grade 8 students last year as part of that district-wide Panorama effort. We've spent some significant time starting this summer with our leadership team, really delving into that data, trying to learn more from that feedback about ways we can improve, but also to celebrate our strengths as a school. We've really done some outstanding work at Henry James this fall that I'm going to invite Ms. Belmonte to share about in just a few moments. But just to highlight some of the survey themes, we had some very clear areas of strength that emerged from that survey, taken by students, staff, and parents. Students at Henry James and staff feel safe. Faculty and staff maintain high academic standards, and we receive very high marks on our school-to-home communication. Areas of growth for us to be thoughtful about moving forward is how to improve a sense of connectedness to the school environment among our students. Student-to-student respect was an area of concern for us with our last year's students. That emerged in this survey as an area of growth, and so we've been working very hard with our faculty to find ways not only to promote connectedness, but also to really bolster our HJOA, which is our Character Ed program. And then finally, on the staff front, we received feedback on evaluation and feedback for staff. That's an area that with our leadership team, we really talk a lot about how to improve that area to support the growth and development of our teachers. And so I'd like to invite Ms. Belmonte to share some of the great work we're doing with climate and culture this fall.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. This is just an aspect of the work that I do on a daily basis that I get the most excited about. I love the culture of the building. I love working with the students who are so excited to come to our school every day and just want the best for themselves and for their peers. And we have an incredible staff that really, at the heart of everything, they want the students to love coming to school, and they're doing everything in their power to make sure that every day is the best day that those kids can have. So this summer, I was really excited because it was my first summer to be able to sit with Brian and plan for the year, as opposed to literally being introduced to the staff the first day of school. So we had the ability to just talk about a lot of things, get some plans going and actually implement some great stuff. And we spent a lot of time with our leadership committee this summer looking and reflecting on the data and saying, what do we do well? Where are some steps, what are some of the steps that we need to take? And how do we really make sure that this school is just as amazing as it can be? And we identified some key factors. We developed some strategies to be able to implement. And one of the things that we worked on right at the beginning of school was just having kids come in and celebrating a new year. And we had a really great assembly with just positive, empowering music playing in the background. We had Doug Haddad, who was our Teacher of the Year last year. He created a video all about just what it means to be a member of the HJMS community. And the kids were just pumped. And we told them that this year we are just challenging each and every one of them to just show they're awesome. And that is the theme that we are weaving into everything that we do. So we want to make sure that we have the teachers at the table who live that, who epitomize that message of being awesome, and working with those teachers and adults to infuse that every day for the kids, because they deserve it. So we have a lot of different committees that we work with, whether it's our support services team, or it's our student intervention team, or it's just our department leaders. But most importantly, it's just the staff that get together to promote the culture, to promote the climate, who want to look at diversity, who want to establish what does kindness look like. And we've sat at the table now for the last couple of weeks, and we've brainstormed. What does it need to look like for our students first and foremost? What are the things that we hear that they're looking for at Henry James? What do we feel we should continue to offer them to just make sure that they know that this is the best place for them, and what can we put in place? We also think about it through the teacher lens and the staff lens. What are we doing to make sure that our teachers know that they're a part of this culture and climate? It's absolutely a two-way street. And then we think about what we're doing at the school-based, so that how are we coming together as a whole school to celebrate all of our successes? So we have lots of different committees that come together to really just promote and help change that school culture and climate, always for the positive.
And Jeanette, do you have any students on any of those committees?
We have students, actually we meet with our student council monthly. We've just started that practice this year. We have an executive board. So Brian and I meet with the students and with the student council facilitators to hear the concerns, to think about activities that they are bringing to the table and things that they want to see happen at our school.
I also have a leadership group I meet with monthly that consists of students, and we have a student representative on the late start opening work that Ms. Murray spoke to together.
Yeah. It's important for us that we're hearing their voice. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. So our HJ Way, as long as I've been in the school, we've just had this very powerful motto and message, and our 5 pillars of being respectful, kind, responsible, trustworthy, and fair, that's at the heart of everything that we do. We want to make sure that those tenets are alive and that they're thriving in our school every day. So how are we promoting that? How are we recognizing that? But most importantly, how are we continuing to educate our students around those pillars, so those are the traits that they carry forth with them as they continue to grow. So we are looking to do some great assemblies throughout the year that involve our students, the recognition of the work that they are doing to demonstrate those pillars, to really just think about all of the great work that they do to celebrate those successes. We have our School of Fish that we still continue to give out to students. We encourage students to fish other students, to fish the faculty, so that again, it's everybody working for those same goals. And on Friday mornings, Mr. White does read out the names of those students, and when students receive fish, you can just see that they want to know, what were they doing to earn that? What did they do to go above and beyond? So really bringing our HJ Way more to life than it has been.
How do you see that it works? What do you see that makes you feel like, you know, the HJ way and the awesome that it's working? I mean, what examples?
Sure. So I would say, I mean, there's lots of examples of it. And one of the things that's really great about our Character Ed program, it's really about intrinsic motivation. I mean, so many of our kids come to school every day and just make good decisions. They do the right thing. That's a way to celebrate and recognize that. We actually have a lot of internal measures we use. Ms. Belmonte will speak a little bit to that on the next slide. We actually administer a lot of our own internal climate survey data every year. So even though the district's committed to a 2-year cycle with the panorama over the past couple of years, we do survey our kids in 7th and 8th grade every year just to kind of get a measure on where they are relative to climate. So we have a lot of positive indicators that it does impact the school in terms of how to quantify it, but really it's also about the vibe of the building.
That's all. I'm thinking more about the vibe.
When you're walking around the building, it's something that you feel. And you know, right now the school feels great. It's been a very positive start to the year, everything Ms. Belmonte shared. And I think that's apparent in the conversations and interactions with kids and staff as well.
Okay.
Can I ask a question,
what I wanted, yeah.
kind of going on these questions? I mean, there are so many students that come in ready to go. How do you really find the kids that aren't ready to go, and how do you give them the positives and make sure that they're getting their fish, and when they have to make a bigger jump towards positive behavior than some of the other kids where it comes easier?
We're so fortunate at the middle school. I mean, our support services team is among the most talented that I've worked with in any form of position. I mean, we really have an exceptional group of folks that work very closely with the type of student you just described. And so, in part, it's through the efforts of our support services team, consisting of our school counseling department, our social worker, our psychologist. But even beyond that, I mean, just basically the team structure. When we present about the middle school here at the board level, we like to talk about the value of the team structure in the middle school. By design, it creates smaller learning environments within that bigger school for kids. Those teachers share responsibility for the same group of students. They meet routinely to talk about the needs of those students. And that social and emotional piece is really at the heart of what we do in middle school. I mean, we talk a lot about the academic accomplishments. We're so proud of the fact that we're a very high-performing school. But really, one of the real strengths of Henry James is the fact that we really embrace our kids. Our teachers are very dedicated to supporting them at a very tough age, and we think we do that very well.
Brian, just a quick question for the public maybe, or people that don't know. I don't. What does that term support services team actually mean?
Sure. So our support services team basically consists of our school counselors. So we have 3 school counselors at Henry James, a school psychologist, a social worker. We include other staff members as well, but that's really the core group. We meet routinely every week in addition to the work we do with teams, just to look at students that may require some of that extra assistance and support that Ms.
These are not teachers. These are people that have special training in social work and
exactly. These are certified
psychological
staff.
counseling.
Exactly.
We have that in the elementary schools as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do.
We have school psychologists and social workers at the elementary school.
Good. It's high praise coming from you for them.
It's well deserved.
And I think just to talk about, how our students are getting involved, we just have so many amazing opportunities for them to join in on some clubs. I mean, you can see last year we had 71% participation at Henry James. Students every year come up to us and ask, hey, I have this idea for a great new club, and I have a bunch of friends who want to do it. If I can find a staff member to help facilitate, is it something that we can make happen? Excuse me, and our answer is typically, as long as we have someone to help with that, let's do it. And we have a multitude of opportunities to just get involved in different ways. As I said, we have diversity clubs, to Lego clubs, to kindness clubs, down to just board game clubs, intramurals, anything that you can think of. If the kids can make it happen, we support them in doing so. And you'll find that a lot of our students engage in more than one activity after school for sure. And there's everything from music to the arts, to the athletic piece of it as well. So when we think about our leadership experiences, again, I think the student council we just took to a different level this year, where we were able to say, instead of just having a committee of a certain amount of kids, we really were able to look at some 7th and 8th grade leaders that wanted a more challenging position to take on that. And they're meeting with us monthly and really generating great ideas to help make this the best place it can be. And what we try to do is, you're right, we have our connections period, which is new this year, and a lot of the teachers, just in collaboration with their students and in discussion, they kind of poll the students to get a read on that vibe. How are things going? What do you want to see more of? What do we not have that you're interested in? Just connecting with one another so that we take that feedback, we listen to our students, and we can make change happen. We also have the ability to do our in-house surveys as well. We can use our Google Forms to really get a sense of where kids are, where teachers are with the climate and culture in the building, so that it's not something we're waiting until the end of the year to find and then say, if we know midway, we can make some of those adjustments. But even from my lens through the assistant principal office, I have the ability too to see who's getting involved in what. We have an incredible maker space opportunity in our libraries where students sign in. So how many are participating in that? How many students are coming into the office, through a discipline lens? And I think we're able to see with the approaches that we're taking and the steps that we're making as a school that those numbers will definitely, they'll show that that vibe is really one of excitement and enthusiasm this year. We're off to a great start.
So as we get into the budget season, just a preview of some of our priorities at Henry James this year and some of the things that we're really hoping to promote as we look forward to the next budget cycle. As you know, we spend a lot of time discussing what we're calling Phase 3 of Henry James facility improvements. With full understanding of the economic uncertainty, with the budget uncertainty at the state level, we still feel as strongly as ever that this is an improvement that we're really in need of at the middle school. I think we really made our case very effectively publicly last year, just articulating that level of need, how these planned enhancements would really improve the overall quality of education at our middle school. That's something that we look forward to revisiting in the upcoming budget conversations this year. Something, and just to sort of go back to something Mr. Frank had asked about in the way of instructional supports with the implementation of the Math and Focus program, one of my priorities this year will be to talk about ways to put in place instructional supports for our students and teachers as we continue to implement that Math and Focus program. We've seen the benefits of instructional coaching at the middle school, and that'll be a budgetary priority for us this year. Finally, just the ongoing supports for our staff. We've done a tremendous amount of instructional work and curricular work. We've talked a lot this evening about Columbia Teachers College, the next generation science standards. We've talked about the new math work. There's a lot of heavy lifting going on in the areas of curriculum and instruction. We're looking to support our teachers as they work through those changes through PD and instructional. In terms of our areas of focus for a school, and really this will bring us to the conclusion of our presentation. This year, you've heard a lot about Math and Focus. That is a significant priority. Other areas of focus for us this year include the work of inquiry. This is something we anticipate to be a multi-year effort when we talk about increasing instructional rigor, when we talk about promoting the critical thinking skills. Inquiry is really at the heart of that work, and inquiry encompasses a lot of the curricular areas that I spoke of, ranging from math to ELA, science and social studies. Inquiry lives very naturally in that work, and so it's a very logical goal for us as a school to focus on that area. Ms. Belmonte shared a lot about the work we're doing to promote connectedness. That's an outgrowth of some of that survey data we shared. We're doing, as you heard, some really outstanding work in this area, and we're seeing some excellent results early on. We spoke very briefly about the new schedule implementation, but that is much easier said than done. That is actually a tremendous amount of work. It was a 2-year process for us to develop that schedule. That's off to an excellent start. The fact that it looks so easy and the fact that it's gone so well speaks to just how much hard work went into that change for us. And then that connections period you heard a little bit about, again, as the name suggests, really intending to promote those positive relationships between students and teachers on our academic teams. Ongoing areas of focus for us this year, we've done some very good work through our intervention model, through our co-teaching to target the achievement gap. That work continues at Henry James. We shared some data points this evening that we look at to guide those efforts. And also to guide how we allocate resources. For example, the Title I tutor that we spoke about. We continue to look at our tiered academic model, as well as the co-teaching. And then finally, we've done some really outstanding collaborative work at the middle school, as Simsbury has done district-wide. We've aligned the work of peer visitations and instructional rounds to the work of our PLCs. This is something we're very proud of at the middle school. We feel we've done it very well, and this year we'll continue to exercise those practices. So I think that brings us to the end. We covered a lot. I would open it up to any questions.
Anyone have any more questions?
Not a question, but a comment. And and is really meant for the public rather than the people in this room. And that goes back to that budget preview, because what I've heard tonight as a member of this board is a description of a middle school that looks like it's a powerhouse. And there's so much good that's going on in that middle school, and there's so much achievement going on in that middle school. There's no doubt in my mind of the importance of that Phase 3 project. I would hate to see this continuing budget issue that we're going to be facing for years here in the state of Connecticut, keep putting that project off, because there's no doubt in my mind that that project is going to enhance an already great educational product that we're offering to the taxpayers of Simsbury. And I just want to be on the record with the public how important that project is, at least in my view.
Excellent, good point. Anyone else? Thank you very, very much. That was a great presentation. I'm so glad you've had a great start. And we look forward to hearing more good news as the year goes on.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work putting the presentation together as well. It's a lot of information to get into a short period.
Thank you very much.
25 slides, nice job. And Burke, I think we're back to you.
We are. All right, our first quarter budget report. As always, we start with revenues, and this is certainly the most uncertain section of the report, and that's really focused on the state grants and state revenues portion. We've talked about what has been a very wide range of potential outcomes, but as Matt said earlier, we hope that we're narrowing it down, and it sounds like it may be more on the positive end from what we've been hearing. Regarding our choice attendance grant, we did plan in the budget process, and we're very pleased that based on the 10-1 number, we do meet that 4% threshold. We'll have to wait and see about other state grants. Our largest federal grants, we do know that the IDEA award amount was up slightly, and that's $998,000, $683, so that continues to be an important part of our special education funding. So really, we're just anxious that possibly by the end of this week and by the end of the month, we'll know how to figure out where we're at in 17-18 as we're already moving forward in the 18-19 process, having just sent out forms to our departments past week. Regarding expenditures, you see that on a year-over-year basis, we're virtually at the same rate of spending. In terms of some of our metrics, saw at our last 10-1 report where we looked at the enrollment decline of about 71 students, and our staffing FTE decrease of 12.5 is itemized here. In terms of the expenditures in those major groups that we highlight on that first page, just a couple items to highlight. As I said, we're virtually just at the same level of spending, 0.1% slower. In the instructional area, we really had just that one classroom section that was added, but largely similar spending year over year. Insurance and pension, just noticing while the spending is on target, we did see a 55 person shift into the high deductible health plan, so that trend is continuing to move. So we're up to 262 out of our 552 participants are now in the high deductible plan. We have under the equipment area, I wanted to highlight that is one of the areas that looks the strangest on a percentage basis, and just to remind everyone that as we planned in our budget process, we knew that we were going to utilize the additional choice revenues of $400,000 to actually handle equipment. So when you really think about it, we have a smaller budget now by roughly $400,000. So we have spent that whole operating budget portion, the tuition that's in grants is what you're not seeing now. So when we do that line item budget, I find it really helpful. We now have that column that just kind of helps you to see what's paid for by the non-lapsing and choice monies. But the major spending there was really the one-to-one Chromebooks that were purchased at the start of the school year. And lastly, out-of-district tuition is really slightly faster, really just due to timing of our first payments. But again, we just want to be cognizant that we reduced that operating budget by $145,000 to have non-lapsing there as a backup. So those are what I see as the highlights of note. If you have further questions, I'm happy to.
Any questions?
It's a good exhibit.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very helpful. So it all begins again.
Yeah.
All right, any public audience? Anyone have anything else they want to mention, say? Excellent.
I did, okay, if I could, we
Neil?
received it, I was gonna do it in communications, and I forgot. We did receive news late this afternoon from Jeff Pinney, our athletic director, that Simsbury High School once again received the Michaels Cup, which is
nice.
CIAC's recognition of the top athletics programs in the state based on participation, sportsmanship, there's a long list. So we're not the only one that wins it, but you want to be in that
Yeah.
company? Maybe we'll have Mr. Penny come and show you the cup.
Oh, I think so.
Very
I
exciting.
think so. That's very exciting. Thanks for sharing.
Great.
Thanks, Neil.
That's very good.
Way to end the meeting. I would entertain motion. Thank you. Anyone else? Do we have a move in a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Right.
Thank you very much.